Hey, it's Christopher, and you're listening to the super fantastic, above average, racing, spectacular. So, here we are, New Hampshire. One trip a year now there since last year. No longer in the playoffs. Produced some good racing. I always liked the New Hampshire Fall Race. It was the opening race, kickoff to the playoffs for many years. Got scrapped last season. Same thing here. One trip here to Loudon. East Coast, I guess if I was a NASCAR driver, I want to be, but didn't work out. But anyway, I'm doing pretty good for myself regardless. This would be my home track. Very close to New Brunswick. I live now Ottawa, Ontario, pretty close to Ottawa, Montreal. Vermont, New Hampshire, New England, if you will. So pretty close. This would kind of been my home track, I guess. East Coast hospitality, that pretty cool lobsters trophy that you get when you win. You got to grab the lobster there. So Kentucky. That was one hell of a race, was it not? The Busch brothers put on one exciting show. Last lap battle. You had Eric Jones waiting in the wings. If something went wrong, he was there to pounce. But Kurt Busch and Chip Ganassi are winners. Kurt Busch is back in the winner's circle. And same thing for Chip Ganassi. It's been a long time. Nearly 2 years for old Chip Ganassi in NASCAR. What a win. What a race. It was... honestly, I was just couldn't be happier for both guys. I think Kurt, every team Kurt drives for makes better. And a lot of strong arguments about Kurt and, Hall of Famer. I think regardless if he ever wins another championship or not, he's in the Hall of Fame. He's won some pretty big races, the Daytona 500, the Coke 600. Just missing that Southern 500 in Indy. Could be a favorite at Indy. You never know. That would be just a good way to cap off the career. If this is indeed it, I don't know. We're going to hear a lot about contract and is he going to be back next year? I think by virtue of this win, may want to consider coming back another year in this team. This team has done fabulous, and I think they deserve a round of applause. Good job for you, and let's get into this week. So, New England is coming up on Sunday. New Hampshire, Loudon. We're recording this on Saturday this week. Sorry for that. Really chaos. It's a kaleidoscope of chaos in my life right now. I feel like the other podcaster, Conrad Thompson, got about 13 different jobs right now. I'm really going crazy. But we're here, and the practice sessions at Loudon, lots of wrecks. I guess this racetrack, I don't know. It's either produced a lot of accidents through the years. They had the restrictor plate, remember there when Adam Petty, unfortunately, met his demise, and Kenny Irwin. This place carries a lot of speed in the corners. It's a flat track. Has a little bit of banking, but can produce some pretty boring shit, too. Like, remember Jeff Burton going flag to flag? It's not a really exciting racetrack, I'll be honest. It is on the East Coast, and I'm East Coast through and through, but I don't really... This track never really... It had some really good playoff races when it was the kickoff race of the playoffs years ago, but not really. Again, it can produce some pretty boring racing, and down to it really it's on life support, last legs here. If as the schedule continues to evolve and more tracks want more dates, it could become a casualty in the end, and you may not even see in the Cup Series here at all. But in any case, they're here this weekend, and Kurt Busch, he wins, like I said. First race of 2019, long awaited for him and Chip Ganassi. It seems like ever since these two got together, they've been knocking on the door. So this is the first win for the one car since 2013. And this is the first really under the Chip Ganassi banner, as all the other four wins for Jamie McMurray came under the Earnhardt-Ganassi banner. Remember that merger. So he's won for 4 teams now, Kurt Busch, in his career. Roush Fenway, Team Penske, Stewart-Haas Racing, and now here Chip Ganassi Racing. The only two teams he never saw the winner's circle with was Phoenix Racing, the James Finch car. Didn't even spend the whole year there. It was basically a way to. It was a bandage from the aftermath, the fallout from Dr. Jerry Punch and himself getting into an altercation and leading to his release from Penske at the end of 2011. And then Furniture Row, he made much better. Went to the playoffs with them. It was the catalyst for what you saw from Furniture Row before Martin Truex Jr. arrived, but he couldn't quite win there either. But 14 wins for Roush Fenway, the championship in 04. 10 wins for Team Penske, 6 for Stuart Haas, and 1 here for Ganassi. And this is the first win for Ganassi, as you said, since 2017, Kyle Larson. And that was at the Richmond September race. But they did win the All-Star race this past May with Kyle Larson. So Chip Ganassi's taste at the winner's circle this year in one non-point event and a point event. That's a statement win for Kurt, I think, because there's a lot of talk about the contract as he signed on this year in the offseason. This is a one-year deal. Could potentially lead to an extension for 2020. We'll see. Kurt is a real racer in every sense of the word. He's made every team, like we said, better that he's driven for. Brought Roush Fenway their second championship ever. Could not quite close it to a Penske, but had some really big moments with Penske. And obviously, as we said, what he did for Furniture Row. And then Stuart Haas, he broke his winless drought with them. And that 41 car was good. And that 41 car is very consistent. And now you see the evidence of that. And this is nothing on Daniel Suarez. I'm a huge supporter of Daniel Suarez, and I hope he really makes this work for him. But the 41 car has not looked all that great this year. And Kurt had that car running fairly consistent when he was in it. He wasn't always winning in it either, but he was good for 1 year winning that car. And the car ran considerably well most weeks. And, yeah. Look at it now and look at this car. It's the irony of it all. If you want to use irony, or you want to use just, I don't know if it's serendipitous, but you have a team that 4 talented drivers hasn't made it the winner's circle yet. And here's old Kurt Busch, the cast-off, raising his hands in victory at Kentucky last weekend. Sure has. I don't know. As I said, he takes the credit, I think, for making Furniture Row better, getting them on the good foot. And this is a 6th consecutive year, at least, of 1 win or more. And the playoffs, he's going to punch his ticket again. 7th consecutive year, I believe, for that streak. So he's a man of streaks, Kurt Busch, is he not, lately? This is a win, I think, with Truex, and this is a big win, I said, when he got the Furniture Row team in the right direction. But this is redemption, I think, for the whole Penske fallout stroll, that he continues to keep rising above and finding ways to be in quality cars and quality rides. And he's sort of had a career renaissance. I know he's a veteran. He's been around a long time, sort of at the back end of his career. Lots of talk about will he ever win into the championship again. I think he had a shot with both teams to playoffs with Furniture Row and Stuart Haas Racing. But I think there's something about this Ganassi marriage that feels right for both parties, and it feels like, does he have another run in him in the title? And I felt like that last year, even Stuart Haas, I even predicted toward the end of the year, and I might have said it on this program, the long, deep playoff runs favor him to sneak in there that Final Four. Can he do with Chip Ganassi? Does he have that one more championship run in him? Hall of Fame driver, regardless if he does or not. But how great is Kurt Busch, really, to look back on it when we see him gone and not racing in the series every week? We talk about a lot at that times in pro sports, not just NASCAR, but all sports. Did we really appreciate the talent of an individual when they were here once they call it a career? And I think that's the case here with Kurt Busch. Did we ever really appreciate how good Kurt Busch is? And I think once he calls it a career, that's going to set in, and that's going to become an ultimate reality, is that this guy was a lot better than what people gave him credit for. a true racer in every sense of the word. And this was his 31st career win, 26th in the all-time wins list. He's one win away from leapfrogging and tying, and then he'll won 2 wins away from leapfrogging Dale Jarrett, another former champion on the all-time wins list. Wins for this team. He wins before any of the 4 Stewart-Haas racing cars, and I think that stands out because he talked a lot about in the media this week, and really relishing this victory, that when it came time to sign on with Ganassi, he was sold. It was about respect and accountability, and I think that's something that he was looking for in a quality ride, and there wasn't a lot of quality rides out there, and it sort of seemed that once this and the 41 were the only 2 available, you figured he wasn't re-signing with the 41. And the 41, he elaborated on that, it was good with Tony Stewart, I'm talking about pronouns, pal. But it's more of a Gene Haas team, and I feel that is true. I feel that even for the 10 car. These feel, even though this is the Stewart-Haas racing stable, the 14 and the 4 always felt more under the Stewart umbrella. Tony Stewart's projects were the 10, even when it had Danica in the car, and now Eric Almirola, which was successful in making it to the winner's circle last year. And the 41. I always see more of the Gene Haas teams. If you're dividing the teams into 2, this is Gene's 2, this is Tony's 2, the 4 and the 14. So for him to go out and say that he felt maybe a bit slighted, why he didn't get a chance to go back and get retained for the 41 car, it wasn't that he was taking jabs at them. I think Ganassi saw that in him, and he also, Ganassi, in the statement this week, has said, when a guy of Kurt Busch's caliber, a championship driver, comes available, that's a rare opportunity. You got to jump on that. And for whatever reason or other, he made the 41 car better. But he's not there. Interesting. But those 4 teams have not won yet. Kurt Busch has won. 7th consecutive playoffs coming up. I think he's, again, I don't like the word dark horse. I can't stand that word, honestly, when people say it's a dark horse contender. They're all contenders. There's no dark horse. If you make a playoff, if you make a tournament, even in pro sports, it's the same thing. I know in basketball, let's use basketball as an example. Golden State, when they're high and mighty in a tournament, is the number 1 seed. They'd be the odds-on favorite. But then you'd have someone like Utah or the Clippers, Oklahoma City, whomever, would be the 8th seed. And then you would say, well, did they really have a fighting chance? I think anyone does that makes a tournament of any kind or playoff format. But they use that dark horse. But I think the true term of that is that someone that's not really on the radar, flying on the radar. And I guess Kurt could qualify under that umbrella. But I don't like the term dark horse. And he's not a dark horse. I think if he's in the playoff, if he has a good playoff run, a deep playoff run, he's as bit as a favorite as anybody. It's Kyle, his brother. If Kevin Harvick sorts it out, Martin Truex Jr., as being a title favorite. He's a former champion, people. Let's not forget that. It's been a while. He's the first ever playoff champion, too. But this guy's still legit, and he still can get it done. He's in the hunt for title number 2. Definitely Hall of Famer. His 2 runner-up finishes this year. So this is kind of a receipt for Kyle from the Bristol run where Kurt just said, if he had one more lap, maybe he would have wrecked him. And that's our brotherly rivalry. I don't know. Both commended each other well. Kyle was very complimentary of Kurt in the winners at the post-race. But this is a receipt for those 2 runner-up finishes and the runner-up finish at Michigan, which he didn't finish second to Kyle there. But that Bristol run was amazing too, and that was vintage Kurt Busch. As a time when it was automatic at Bristol. You're going to Bristol, Kurt Busch is going to win this thing. And Kyle's really good at Bristol. So that battle at Bristol in Kentucky, they put on 2 of the best shows of the year, the Busch brothers. And again, underappreciated talents. I know we talk a lot about Kyle, and Kyle's a heel motherfucker. But how good are the Busch brothers? We have a lot of brother duos in NASCAR. The Waltrips come to mind. Labonte's, but we're champions. But I don't think you've ever seen a brother duo, a set of brothers, the caliber of the Bushes in any sport. not just NASCAR. Truly remarkable. Two really high-profile, quality talents performing at the top of their game and making it look effortless. What more could you ask for if you're the owner of one of these two cars, the 18 or the 1? This is Matt McCall's first win as a crew chief. He spent 6 years as a crew chief with Jamie McMurray, and McMurray was a great talent. But this one car, Kurt Busch has taken it and elevated to the next level. And the one car struggled for years. Martin Truex Jr. in the car, remember, at one point as well. This is McCall's first win as a crew chief. The Kentucky race, I said, is one of the best of the year. It's going to go down in history, I think, when you look back. And it breaks the streak of all teams Ganassi of the Gibbs Penske dominance over Kentucky. It had never been won prior to this race by anyone else from any organization. The win for Ganassi, as I said, this is redemption for 2002 as well. And when I think Sterling Martin should have been the champion in 2002. This could be the year for redemption if this is another receipt, maybe. If Kurt can somehow make the Final Four, win Homestead Miami, he's had a lot of success at that track, put himself in position. Ganassi's a champion in NASCAR. That'd be great. But, he's missing the two big ones, as we talked about. He touched on. He's won the 500. He's won the Coke 600. A win at Darlington and Indy, it just elevates his case. But he's in the Hall of Fame regardless. I don't see anybody who won't elect him is crazy. I know he had his dust up. And he's matured a lot. Both Busch brothers have really found maturation. We're not exactly the most popular guys in the garage at one point. Kyle's still not that popular, but I think that everybody's sort of forgiven and forgotten some of Kurt's antics from the past. And Kyle is a runner-up here. This is his first in 4 races. He's second in the standings, and second runner-up finish. I said in the last 4 here. He's missed out on the third Kentucky when he was gunning for 3 wins there. 6 on the year. 4 or 5 on the year, excuse me. Does he have 5 or does he have 4? He has 4. Productive day for the team. I think it's just, if you're looking at this team, they've made some gains here. And the top 5 wise, it's 4 in the last 5 races, last few weeks here. And he's trying to sweep. And him in his sweeps too. So he's the first driver to sweep a weekend. He's been doing that for a while. Didn't have the opportunity. Excuse me. I don't think he was not in the Kentucky race. I'm way off. Sorry about that. This team, the 18 car, is primed for a championship run. We all know. And got a lot of talent. Abundance of talent, and we all know that already. But Erik Jones, we mentioned him. He's in the news a lot lately. He was there, waiting in the wings. Had something gone wrong. The Busch brothers battling hard for that win. Miscalculation by either one of them. Say it sends one in the wall, one in the grass. They wreck on the front stretch. Maybe they collect Erik Jones, maybe they don't. He's there waiting to pounce. And he's a desperate need of a win here. This guy wants to win. And I think Kentucky was a big turning point for Erik Jones. This is his 4th third place run of 2019. Now 16th in the standings, so he'd be in the playoffs if we were to start today. Critical stretch of races coming up for him. And he's in the news again. A lot of speculation about when Christopher Bell revealed a couple weeks ago he was signed on to JGR for next season. Where is he driving? Xfinity's Cup. It's pretty well going to be Cup. It left a lot of people, gossip and innuendo. Where's he going to drive next year? 20 cars is not vacated. Eric Jones is still the driver of this car. Where does he drive? Well, he said another article came out this week, and I'll read it while we're on the topic of that at the moment, that he is resigning. He's close. He feels closer than he was weeks ago to resigning. So let's get into this. Eric Jones here. And he was pretty fast in the practices at the racetrack in New Hampshire this week. So here we go. This is from his NBC Sports. Eric Jones right from Loudon. After meeting with team owner Joe Gibbs this week, Eric Jones believes that he's finally is close to signing an extension with the team after a few months of negotiations. And this is a quote from Jones. "We had some good meetings, positive meetings, so we're moving in the right direction," Jones said during the Friday afternoon qualifying session in New Hampshire. "I'd love to get it done here soon. We had good meetings between my guys and JGR. I've had good meetings with Coach talking about and making it forward. I know keeping it, saying it, but I feel like we're pretty close. I keep saying it, but we're close to getting it done." And like I said, we talked about the uncertainty about 2020 swimming has been no distraction. It says no distraction for 20. No, it's been a little bit of a distraction. He's run as well as he should. He believes he's close to ending a year-long winless streak. Well, I don't know if he's close. So 6 top 10s in the past 9 races and moved to 16 in the standings, the final provisional spot for the playoffs with 7 races remaining in the regular season. The Byron, Michigan native said that he told Gibbs, "I want to get the extension done. We both want to get it done and move forward and stop worrying about it and stop focusing on it, but we're close. Hopefully you're here soon." An extension for Jones would mean that JGR has a full lineup for 4 drivers signed for 2020, and that will shift the focus to what's next for the Xfinity driver, Christopher Bell, who's under contract for JGR next season. And I says, "I think you know as much as I do," Bell said Friday morning. This is from Bell now, from his perspective. When asked about what series he will race next year, actually, you probably know a little bit more than I do. Ultimately, it's not up to me. I can't make the decision, so I'm just along for the ride. Bell indicates he indicated his desire to move from Cup last season, and those, again, we talked about this. It was in place that Levine Family Racing was going to acquire his services for the year, sort of on hold, like how Jones started his career with Furnish Row in 2017, where he was on loan for them, satellite team, rookie season there. 73 was get a good season. Again, not to keep trying to scratch the mystery of the demise of Furniture Row, but pretty sure that could have been a functional 2-car stable for many years, but for whatever reason, they're not around anymore. And so I think you have Matthew D. Benedetto, who drives the Levine family car, the 95 car now. So I don't know the terms of that deal, but I think it'd be pretty bizarre if he's only spends the 1 year. I know the results haven't quite been there, but there's 2 trains of thought here. And Levine family shot down the one that they're not going to expand to a 2-car team. Seems unlikely, but it's possible. As I said, Furniture Row did it for the year. Bell at some point maybe inserted into the JGR lineup at the Cup level. So 1 year run with these, run your rookie season with Levine family, get a lot of resources from JGR. But to ditch Matthew D. Benedetto after 1 year doesn't seem likely. But it's the racing business, and it can be at times very unforgiving. So I could see that as potential. But D. Benedetto made it known he wanted to be with a competitive team, and sort of his second coming with JGR, as he was a development driver for them, ran some Xfinity races for them almost a decade ago. And about Christopher Bell, I mean, the rookie battle at this stage is going to look as it's going to be a pretty dynamic rookie of the year battle in 2020 if this comes to fruition, to be Bell, Reddick, and Custer, who are all battling for the Xfinity title this year. Reddick's, and obviously his situation is not as murky as Bell or Custer, where I think RCR, that's two teams, did bring back the 31. For Custer, is pretty well in the same position Bell is in, where he's deeply rooted in the team. He's got a family connection. He's going to eventually one day be a part of that four-driver lineup. But all four seats are not vacated at the moment. And a partnership with Rick Ware has been discussed. Another a satellite team for them, potentially for the year, whatever, 2 years, whatever the case may be. But it gets these young drivers who obviously will graduate to the Cup Series, and they've earned the right to. But do you want to be running less than star equipment? Go from hero to zero in less than a year. And Levine family, and it's nothing on Levine family or Rick Ware. Rick Ware's teams are terrible. I'll call it for what it is. And again, I'm not here to bury him or criticize him, but it is a widely known fact. And Rick Ware's teams are not great. They struggle to find any sort of success on the track. And it's just certainly not it's not to belittle this team, but if Cole Custer's coming in with a house of fire, he's got 5 wins, finishes runner-up at New Hampshire to Christopher Bell, who's got 5 wins on the year. Reddick's struggling a little bit now. Seems as if he's slowing down, but 3 wins, nonetheless, impressive as it may be. We're getting off track here, but we're talking way too much about this, but we're not going to play fantasy silly season here. But the future in the 20 car for Eric Jones is very much in doubt, and it's crowded at the top. And who gets sacrificed here? Just a win at this point in a playoff appearance, is it enough to save him in the 20 car? It doesn't do him any harm. I mean, but it's the same thing. It goes back to Joey Logano and Daniel Suarez, who were shown the door with loads of potential left on the table. But where would Jones drive? So we'll save that for another bit. But in the span of the last 8 races, he's been one of the best JGR drivers. He's got no wins, obviously. 3 top 5s, 3 top 5, 5 top 10s. So at this point, the win is on the radar. I know it's paramount for this team, but he was 3rd at Pocono in June, and he has 5 career top 5s. 5 starts, 3 top 5s at Pocono. And he's become a pretty good road course racer. He did really well at Sonoma. He was 5th at Watkins Glen in 2018. Had a great run at Sonoma this year, so he's figured out the road course. And Bristol, look at his record at Bristol. Boat starts in 2018. He was 5th, and he had this runner-up finish for Furniture Row in the 5-Hour Energy 77 car. What a battle he had with Kyle Busch. Nice Bristol battle. Seems like Kyle Busch was in a lot of those epic Bristol battles. But 2017. 2nd at Indy in 2018. So there's lots of opportunity for him here to win. And Daytona felt like a missed opportunity, perhaps. But at Darlington, he was 5th in 2017. And the Furniture Row team, this team was red hot. The 77, they almost made the playoffs. I remember they were an eyelash away from making it. And I just don't hope that they don't go down the Daniel Suarez, Joey Logano route with him. He was chosen over Suarez. This could have easily been him. He could have been easily dumped where Suarez stayed. Suarez had the Xfinity Championship to his name. Jones the Truck Championship, but lots more potential, I think, in Eric Jones than Daniel Suarez, and that's why he's still a member of Joe Gibbs Racing, and Daniel Suarez is not. Kyle Larson has a 4th-place run here. Good for team morale. Becomes a team player here. Pushes Kurt in the end, helps him out. 2nd top 5 in the last 4 races. He's getting close. I think there's an improvement here, so he's 13th in the standings. Missed the opportunity at Chicago in a couple weeks to capitalize with Alex Bowman there. Had the lead late in the race, squandered it. This is a missed opportunity here again, I think. Kentucky, you could see it that way, but I think he's getting really, really close here. And he's opted to re-sign. It's purported he's re-signing another year with Chip Ganassi, and it's reported on Instagram. I don't know how, like I said, nothing's made official yet that I see, but this Instagram post, I'm going to put somebody over here. It's sort of a gossip and innuendo account. Some of it turns out to be accurate, but there's some pretty healthy debate on this person's account. Let me dial it up here. We'll review that while we're at it, you know. And then the paint scheme's pretty cool this week. The Ronald McDonald Children's Charity 42 car. It's an interesting stat. That car has been with McDonald's sponsorship. Has never seen the winner's circle. Twice with Jimmy Spencer, and I think as long as it had with Casey Kane at one point running that. Bill Elliott for years. Here it is. So Monster Cup News 2. It's putting you over there, whoever you are, on your Instagram account. It says, Larson returning. Will return to Chip Ganassi Racing for the 2020 season. Considered breaking news. Here's all of the comments, and some of them are just pretty entertaining. So we'll go through them. Moose Prime 98. Hopefully Kurt Busch will be back in the one at Chip Ganassi. Some replies here. Spawns a lot of conversation, this person's Instagram account. So let's see what the replies are. High _ gear 43. Rather have Ross Chastain in the one. Interesting. And then Moose Prime responds to high gear. Yeah, same, but I'm also a huge outlaw Kurt Busch fan. Skillet 303. Ross hasn't even been in a good cup car. Kurt has already done so much more than Jamie did in the last 4 years of his career. Keep him another year. Braden _ DO83 responding to Skillet. Kurt Busch is the new face of Ganassi. I'd say he's still got a few years left. Okay, I agree with that sentiment. Moose Prime, back to Skillet. Put Ross Chastain in the 40 and Kurt in the 1. So Chip Ganassi expanding, and that's a good point. Ross Chastain is proving himself to be the darling of NASCAR this season. True racer, the watermelon farmer. Is a great story. Expand to a 3-car team. Ganassi hasn't had a whole lot of luck with that in the past, but who knows? Moose Prime, that can work too. Skillet tells Moose Prime. Here's K Steel 14. Ross also runs in a low tier cup team. You never really know. Moose Prime back to Skillet. Yeah, or Dodge officially comes back to NASCAR, and if Honda came to NASCAR, I would use Ross Chain as their face. Grayson or Check Love K. Chi Love K, whatever that is. My guess is Kurt will be back and Ross will be put in a part-time for Chip Ganassi. And then in 2021, Ross could become a full-time Ganassi driver for Moose Prime. Probably the 10, full-time for Colic. Yeah, and that would be great. I'm sorry I'm doing this to you, but this is just too much fun. So another person's their 2 cents worth here. I think next year Kurt will do full time with Ross doing select races in the 40 part time while he runs the full time colleague. Hopefully then the year after possibility running. That is a muddled sentence. The thought said someone said thought he was retiring. Ugh. Yeah, no shit. Good, he isn't going anywhere else. LOL. Why is that? Boo. John YD _1. Seems like Kyle has Jamie's cars from last year and Kurt has Kyle's cars. Maybe be a stretch, but Larson's struggling to run 15 just like Jamie's last year, and Kurt is always a factor. IDK. Okay, interesting theory. It's a new aero package. It doesn't fit the way Larson drives, and he's having a really rework how he races. In time, he'll get better. I agree. Just 2020 or right now? Where else would you have gone to be competitive? And don't say Hendrick, people. It could be reality. You just never know. That's someone says here, NRTV diecast to Hickory Batboy 1. About the, I think, Hickory Batboy 1 here. Says to T-Pole 76. There was a lot of rumors amongst the teams that he wouldn't be going to Stewart Haas Racing. Kevin Hart was going to buy part into Ganassi and drive the 42. Where do you people get this rumor and innuendo gossip bullshit. I've never heard, and I follow this sport religiously, I've never heard once of anyone throwing around the notion or the idea that Kevin Harvick was going to leave Stewart-Haas Racing, top tier team. I know they're in a bit of a tailspin right now, to buy into Chip Ganassi Racing and drive the 42. What the fuck is this nonsense? So, NRTV Diecast reports to Mr. Hickory Batboy with his rumor and bullshit. That's completely ridiculous. I agree. Kevin Harvick's leaving Stewart-Haas Racing should be the given of it being a false rumor. Agreed. So Hickory Batboy comes back at Mr. Diecast and says he left RCR and still has a contract with Chevy. I don't see how that seems so ridiculous. How does he have a contract with Chevy? Mr. Hickory Batboy, where'd you get your bullshit? And back to Mr. Diecast, the Batboy. It's far-fetched completely to think Harvick would leave the team he has had nothing but constant success with, and an owner who he enjoys driving for. Harvick also doesn't have a contract with Chevy. He's with Ford marketing their vehicles. Then T-Pole to Mr. Batboy. Don't be shocked if you're looking at DW's replacement in the booth. Hence why they haven't looked for a replacement. Don't see that happening either. And back to Joshua Gordon, 42984. Mr. Hickory here. If he had a contract with Chevy, he would not be in a Ford, period. Exactly my point. Mr. Hickory, seems like you don't know a whole lot about racing, my friend. Griffin Lynn Racing. Not sure. I'm happy or sad. About what, Griffin Lynn? Larson signing? Or this whole ridiculous rumor and gossip about Mr. Kurt Busch? So T-Pole comes back here. There's also a divide starting to develop between Rodney and Kevin. Not to the level that broke up Chad and Jimmy, but the longer Kevin goes without the win, the bigger that divide will become. So this is turning into a whole discussion here about Kevin Harvick, rather it's Kyle Larson signing. So Joshua Gordon comes back. Are you sure you mean you didn't say he was going to the Wood Brothers? And then Mr. Dyke, Bartholomew 41 comes to say, do you think he'll win this season? And then the one guy, Caesar, says, man, Stewart-Haas Racing could have hired him. Hire who? This is so muddled. Hope they have a ton of spare body parts. And then Josh Ham 84, failed experiment. He's fast and talented, but by his own admission, he doesn't know anything about cars. That's standing in his way of growing as a cup driver, in my opinion. He's speaking of Larson here. He won 4 races 1 year, though. Somebody says. Dylan says to him. And then NASCAR John says, that's 2 years ago, dude. He hasn't done shut now. I think he means shit. He is overrated. Dylan fires back to Mr. John. Gonna make the chase probably. It's not called the chase anymore, folks. Probably win a race and won the All-Star race. He sucks. And then Mr. John to Dylan. The All-Star race doesn't count, you clown. It's half the competition. He won't win a race. This is just... And then Josh comes back. Failed experiment. He's fast and talented. Accuracy. By his own admission, he doesn't know anything about cars. Okay, you've repeated that. By your admission, you know nothing about NASCAR, motherfucker. Just like Cole Trickle, and look what happened there. It's a movie, motherfucker. Darn. Here we go. Mama Mongeli. KL is profoundly loyal. So elbows up, Kyle. Also, a shout out to Chip Ganassi Racing. Okay. Then this other fella here, DJANJO24_7_365. Please, God, stop wasting his talents. Hashtag Kevin Harvick. Hashtag RCR. Stewart-Haas been begging him to go there for years. Begging who to go there for years? Kyle Larson? Kurt Busch should also get an extension. No shit, Sherlock. Yay. Whoop, whoop. To another shitty year from Larson Fan 42. And you have some beer emojis. J Tello 0930 says, hopefully he'll go to Hendrick Motorsports, HMS. And then Mr. Nick here, taking pics. Nick is taking pics, people. Says, I sure hope so. Then Mr. TAGRN8, hot seat? Never would he be in the 42, though? Okay, so, again, we're not sure how true this is. This is an Instagram post from a guy that does seem to post a lot of rumor and no bullshit. Sorry, NASCAR Cup News, too. If this indeed is a re-sign, and it's legit, that Larson is returning to Ganassi, this will be his 7th year in the 42 car. That'd be 2020. 5 wins, 4 playoff runs, it'd be 4 consecutive playoff appearances. The winless starts at 65 races now. I think the focus, if this is true now, the second at Chicago, so there's momentum. The focus is to get Kurt Busch under contract too, or maybe Ross Chastain, whoever they have their eyes on, then the radar there. But the 65 race drought is alarming. You know, the All-Star race is right. Some clown did point out there, this doesn't count, really. It's half the field, but it's still the best cars in the business. So it accounts for something. I still think he's sneaky good. He gets into the playoff. He has a nice run. Doesn't get eliminated in round 2 or 3. Has a chance to walk away with the championship too, and that's what the beauty of this whole realignment of the point system is. He doesn't have to have a stellar year to walk away with the championship in the end. Couple wins in the playoffs, he's as good as gold. He's the champion. Again, that Hendrick debate comes up a lot. I've been hearing it. True or not true? I don't know. It would make sense from a standpoint that if you have Jimmy Johnson calling it a career soon, if this is a 1-year deal, I don't know this is actual re-sign for Larson, what the terms and conditions are here. It would leave a good seat open for the 48. Could see the glory days of the 48 again. Kyle Larson would be working with, I don't know who at crew chief, but I think the biggest thing that if he is re-signed with Ganassi is maybe shuffling the deck. Chad Johnston, for whatever reason, this isn't working anymore, and I've been that's where I've seen the problem lie with Kyle, is that maybe they need to switch it out, give him a new set of ears, new set of eyes, change crew chiefs, see what happens. I know the chemistry was there at one point. They won 5 races together. It's there. But you haven't been able to recapture that sense, and it's going on 2 years. It's time to shuffle the deck, if indeed he is going to remain a member of Chip Ganassi Racing for another season. Denny Hamlin. So he's sort of slipped into obscurity. A 5th place run here at Kentucky. This is his second 5th place run in the last 4 races, so he's kind of got lost in the shuffle. But the rise of Truex and Kyle Busch, and you have that whole Jones, Christopher Bell drama, who's going to drive what. Hamlin has an opportunity here. He wants to get win number 3. Pocono's coming up. He won New Hampshire 2 years ago. Sort of finds himself 4 out of 4 with the team, even though Jones has run a little bit better than him recently. Jones would still be 4th on the pecking order, in theory, if you look at it. But it's to save the season for Hamlin. He started out of the gate so strong with the 500, got that win early in the year. Sort of just seems to be non-existent, a lot of inconsistency. Maybe not a playoff year, but again, if you're looking at the 4 drivers in the stable, if Christopher Bell is loaned out to Levine family for the year, the 11 car seems like a natural choice for him, potentially down the line, a FedEx sponsorship. Don't know, won't read into it, but I know he has to capitalize on this. So Clint Boyer gets himself a 6th place run here, 14th in the points. He's on the bubble. This is his best finish since Pocono in June. It's just been marred in some bad luck. 2 wins at the New Hampshire Fall Race in 07 and 10. His first career win was actually in 07. Can he recapture some of that magic on the Magic Mile? He's got to capture something, because this guy, we're going to go into who's on the bubble and not on the bubble in a few moments, but it's critical that they haven't been able to really win those stage points. And I think lack of stage points at this, and it's been close to winning this year. So Clint's done his part where he's run well, but that to get into the playoffs, you need those stage points, you need those stage wins. They're lacking in that department, and he's made that quite public. He's made it no bones about it in post race that he's not happy. He leads 40 laps in Kentucky, so there's speed in the 14 car. He's been up front all year for most of the year. He's surprisingly been at some points the best driver in the stable, but it's not converting. You're not capitalizing on those opportunities to get in the winner's circle. So this puts a lot of strain on the 14 car for the next 7 weeks. He misses this. We're going to talk about it soon, but the ramifications could be pretty epic for Clint Bowyer here. So Joe Logano's 7th place run, first in the standings. Heading back to the site of his first career win in 2009, 10 years ago already. Remember, he wins in the Home Depot 20 car. He was the second rookie to win within a decade of each other. Remember, Stewart wins his first in 99 at September Richard. That was a little more of a decisive win, and we covered that race as a bonus episode last year, and it's in the archives if you want to have a look at Podbean and Spotify. This got check time too for Joe Logano. I know he's back at a place where he's had a lot of luck in New England. He's an East Coast guy. A win here puts him on par with Keselowski, and Keselowski's on that roller coaster again where he's going to look mighty dominant in some weeks and then just looks kind of lost others. Logano doing a tremendous job of defending his championship at this point. We'll see what happens. Maybe lightning strikes 10 years later, and it won't be raining this time. And be scrutinized for that win, and he's come a long way since then. Daniel Suarez gets an 8th place here. He won the pole. Really disappointed by the finish. He could have won this race easily. I feel that he's on the cusp of winning. Wants that first career win. It feels like now, through the reports you're seeing, that he leads 52 laps. He's had a good car here. Both Stewart-Haas cars. Clint Bowyer, just, again, whatever reason, they don't convert. He's 18th in the points. That wreck at Daytona really took him out of his rhythm, and now he feels like he's racing not only for the playoff spot in that first career win, but his future in the 41 car. Is his job on the line? Is Cole Custer going to be in the 41 next year? Both remain to be seen, but I think Daniel Suarez, again, if he falls victim to getting cut pretty early in his tenure with a team, 2 teams within a 4-year span, what does that say for the rest of his career? This guy's fighting for his career right now. Shouldn't be. He's a former Xfinity champion. He's got loads of talent. Big mystery. I think he gets another year, but in this business, you never know. Ryan Newman, 9th place run here, sort of recapturing some of the old Ryan Newman of old magic here. A former winner in New Hampshire as well. Since the Michigan race, this team's been quietly doing well. The number 6 car, 5 race span, 1 top 5, 4 top 10s. He's making that playoff push. Newman likes to do it. Not a lot of pizzazz. We all know he's done that with Stewart-Haas. Did it with RCR. Upsets seem to be his thing now. I guess later in his career, not quite the stud he was back then, but I think he has a couple upsets left in him. Some good tracks coming up. Who did it in Indianapolis in 2014, winning that seemingly out of nowhere, knowing he would not be in that car. At the conclusion of the year, actually, no, he won that in 14. No. Pardon me. 14 was the first year with RCR. So 13 he did win. Pulls that major upset, knowing he would not be in the car in 14. Pulls the upset a couple years ago, beats then what turned out to be future teammate Ricky Stenhouse at ISM a few years back. So last week he breaks the top 5 drought at Daytona, and the 6 car has looked really well. That was the first time the 6 car had been in the top 5, had been in position and had a top 5 Excuse me. No. Sorry. So the 6 car hasn't won. They had a top 5 with Bain a couple years ago, but the 6 car could use a win. This year has not won since Daytona in 2011 with David Reagan, and 15 laps led here at Kentucky. So Newman is quietly having a pretty good run in the 6 car this year. I think if you're going to look back on it, whatever happens the rest of the year, I'd say this is a success for the team. They've done all right. Stenhouse was 12th at this. He leads 21 up. So the good news for Roush Fenway, and their push toward getting both cars in the playoffs late in the year here, they're leading laps. They're pretty fast. So he was second 12th place run in the last 3 races for Stenhouse, 19th in the points. I think he needs that win to get in the playoffs. I think Bristol's going to be on the radar. He's a great Bristol driver. Missed the opportunity at Daytona. So there's, as I said, the big news here from the Kentucky race, I think the takeaway is some of the big names have cooled off. Hendrick, their strong run. Chase Elliott's 15th. It's come sort of to an end. He's just fallen miserably here. He was as high as third in the points at Charlotte and Pocono. He's fallen down into the standings here. I think he's 10th in the standings going into this. 9th for Bowman, 17th at that race. William Byron, fresh off his runner-up finish, 18th here, 12th in the standings. And Jimmy Johnson was starting to look like the Jimmy Johnson of old. He sort of had some of that Lowe's magic in the 48. It looks like, is this the Jimmy Johnson? We saw the Jimmy Johnson of old running consecutively in the top 5 for the first time in a long time. But is it the Jimmy Johnson of old back, or is it the new Jimmy Johnson? Because he looked pretty damn bad at Kentucky, 30th place finish there. So is it Johnson being back to Johnson, or was it just he took a little trip in a DeLorean, or I don't know. Truex Jr. was 19th. Keselowski was 20th. 2 former Kentucky winners expected to have much better runs. Were not a factor at all. The same can be said for Harvick. Dominant in Kentucky in years gone by, had not won. 22nd here. Last top 5 finish for him was Dover in May. That's 8 races ago. This team is really struggling, the 4-car. Much to be made of that. But the big guns did not quite have, other than Kyle Busch, have a good day at Kentucky a week ago. So now we're going to look at teams on the bubble. It's that time of year. We're going to be talking about this probably on a weekly basis until we get to the playoff. So teams that are on the bubble and drivers, what's the implications for them? What's the reward? Well, Kyle Larson's 13th. And if he has indeed signed on for Chip Ganassi for another year in 2020, the focus should be on a playoff berth and a win. You want that momentum going in. You want to have that decisively. You don't want to get in the playoffs winless. He could win within the playoff. I know that's a distinct possibility. Could go on one hell of a run, but I think getting yourself in with the win takes a little bit of the heat off the team. Use Kurt Busch's recent win as fuel, as motivation. Kurt's in there, and I think it's just use maybe some of Kurt Busch's setups in the next couple weeks. Maybe swap setups between the 1 and the 42, whatever the case may work. Talented driver, like I said, who could go on a really strong run, could be quite dangerous if he gets deep in the playoff. The implications if he misses this, it's just another year of a long off season of contemplating what the future is and doubting yourself. And again, the crew chief, should the crew chief go? This is a guy who was pegged a couple years ago as an odds-on favorite going in the preseason into the playoff, into the season. If he turns that around, it silences all the dollars. But another year of miss. If he misses this playoff run this year, leaves a lot of doubt for 2020. The rumor and innuendo is going to come again. Is Hendrick courting him? Is another team courting his talents? Does he just leave cup racing altogether? He loves running dirt tracks. It creates that kind of doubt in the mind of, is he maybe overrated? Was the talent ever there, or he just went on a hot streak? Questions that will continue to raise their head. Doesn't make the playoffs this year. Clint Bowyer's 14th. Needs the win to separate himself from the other Stuart Haas struggles. That's kaleidoscope of chaos going on right there. As pointed out, needs stage wins badly to make the playoffs. Needs to get in position to win. If he continues to bad luck mars this team continuously, missing the playoffs would have, like I said, huge implications on his job security. I think Cole Custer seems cup ready. He's doing really well in the Xfinity Series. That puts a lot of pressure on Clint Bowyer. A little bit of an older driver, a vet in the sport. He's made it quite public. I'm not happy with the team, the performance of the 14 car this year. That kind of, I guess, venting and being that expressive about the performance of the car could lead him to be out of this car at the end of the year should they not make the playoff. Jimmy Johnson's 15th. Still in search of win 84. He's made every playoff since 2004, its inception. Wants to keep that streak going. It's been 2 years since his last win. Is this the end of an era for this driver? Getting in the playoff, I think, is nice. But is he really going to be a factor in the championship? Can we see the Jimmy Johnson of old? And we've seen he can put on a show when he's in the right position in the playoff picture. If he misses this, the implications are huge. Again, constant rumors will erupt here. How much is left in Jimmy Johnson? He's 1 year left in the contract. He signed a 2-year deal prior to this season. Is this the final hurrah for him in the 48? Is he going to move on, voluntarily retire, maybe put someone else in that car? We don't know. But it could go. And again, if he's in the hunt for the 7th championship, he can. 8th championship. He still creates a little bit of history, and I think he still has a shot at win 84. So Eric Jones here, he's 16th in the standings. Again, he seems like he's another driver who the implications here is he's driving for job security. As it's without question, no one knows where Christopher Bell is going to go yet. They just know he's signed a JG Drift next year. Is Eric Jones going to become a casualty of the 20 car, much like Joey Logano and Daniel Suarez in the 19? So with all those questions in doubt, I think if he makes the playoffs, he gets the win, it sort of puts a little bit of the fire out. But they don't make it, then it could do a lot to rattle this young driver's confidence. And I said there's a fickle market right now. There's not a lot of seats open. What's left for Eric Jones? So Newman is 17th in the standings. Ricky Stenhouse, easy for me to say, is 19th. Both likely need to win to get in. One could get in on points. That would more than likely be Newman, who's ahead of Stenhouse at this point. It's good if Thrush family can get both back in. They've had not a lot of success in the last 5-6 years. For Newman, again, dangerous veteran. Can he get into the playoff, go on a deep run? As good as anybody on the track. Again, if the stars align for him and he's in a position to be up front for wins and top fives, that could be big. Stenhouse Jr. is likely marking the Bristol night race on his calendar. That's his real one legit shot to get in, unless he pulls some kind of fuel mileage gamble or gambles on tires somewhere down the line. Some of the tracks coming up are not been too kind to him in his career. The implications if they don't make it, I think it's not as drastic as some of the people above them in the standings. I think this team has seen that they struggle for so many years that they've been making tremendous gains. And at one point, Roush Fenway Racing and the 6 cars improved a lot. And Stenhouse seems to be finding his. He wants to shed the image of being the guy that just can win at Daytona and Talladega. So that's the implications for them. Suarez, again, same scenario like Jones, and the bit of roles reverse where Jones was chosen over him a year ago. That Suarez feels the pressure, and I don't know, he's putting a lot of pressure on himself to win in that 41 car. It's again a 1-year deal. The sponsorship from Eris is his. He's looked flashes of brilliance in the 41 car. Same when he was in the 19 car. The implications if he doesn't make it, it could be his career. Who knows? It's not fair if that is the case. It's absolutely ludicrous. I think there's lots of talent, lots of time left to leave it up to one season and down the stretch. It just seems ridiculous in my opinion, but we'll see what happens with Daniel Suarez. So that's the implications. If he makes it, again, it sort of puts a little, it extinguishes the fire. It takes a little heat off him, and he'll have to develop. And I think that's the reason why Stewart-Haas Racing hired him. I remember reading they really admired his passion for wanting to be successful in this car and wanted to put it in the winner's circle. So if you're contradicting yourself, if you're going to go back and cut him after one season, well, you didn't quite see the passion. You didn't quite see the potential, did you? Paul Menard, 20th. We don't talk a lot about him. He had a lot of headlines in the Xfinity race this week, right? New Hampshire with his altercation there with little receipt there he paid Harrison Burton on the final laps of the race. Had an altercation at the end. Burton's a rookie. Blatantly takes him out. Paul Menard is in the Xfinity Series. Wants to win, right? He did a nice top 5 finish for him. He's re-signed with the Wood Brothers, so that's the upside. The only implications here is none. No one expects anything from this team. He has the rap of being only there because of the sponsorship and with the Wood Brothers and the Penske Alliance. He makes it in, fine. That's great. He's had one other playoff appearance in his career. Didn't amount to much in that one when he was driving the 27 for RCR. Hasn't won since 2011 at the Brickyard. Michigan, he was good last year. A nice top 5 finish there. So maybe they're circling that on their calendar. But the implications he makes it's cool. He's there. That's nice for the Wood Brothers to get back into the playoffs. You don't make it, I don't think anyone's mad at him. Because no one expects much out of them. When you see the Wood Brothers as legendary as they are in Paul Menard, you see this combination and you're saying, well, middle of the pack. Occasionally run in the top 10 or occasionally run in the top 5. No real expectations, so everything in the game for Paul Menard, nothing to lose in my opinion. So the 5 drivers, so we got into Loudon, the Magic Mile, whatever you want to call it, East Coast lifestyle racing. It's a great racetrack. A lot of memories. 5 drivers got their first career win at New Hampshire. Joni Mitchell in 99. Tony Stewart was going for back-to-back. He won the previous week at Richmond. His rookie season kind of went on a tear there toward the end of 99. Great battle with Joni Mitchell. So it was nice to see Joni Mitchell in the Bell South car win. Sabco. Tears of joy for him. Many years in the sport struggling. The 93 Xfinity champion. Just never quite had good runs, but never was there. And he finally broke through in 99. Robbie Gordon, November of 2001. That race was postponed because of the events of 9/11. And is subbing in the RCR car for the 31 for Mike Skinner, who is, I think, relieved of his duties a few weeks prior to this. It was the last win for the 31 car with the Lowe's sponsorship. The Lowe's would then go on to have very healthy relationship with Jimmy Johnson a year later for many years to come, starting in 2002. So that win, controversial was with the dust up there with the other Gordon, Jeff Gordon. The championship was already decided at that point. This was just a race postponed, so they did it on Thanksgiving weekend in 2001. Robbie Gordon gets the win, leads to a contract with him. He would drive the 31 car for a few more years there for RCR. And, of course, Ryan Newman in his rookie season wins in 2002 in September. Clint Boyer also in his sophomore year wins in 2007. He wins. This to me was the catalyst for his playoff. He had a great playoff run, 3rd place in the standings that year, and only his 2nd year in Cup with RCR. And of course, Joey Logano, who we've mentioned, he wins the rain shortened event in 09. Gambles on fuel mileage. Greg Zipadelli and the young driver at the time find himself in the winner's circle and the 20 car, and he would go on to race that car for a few more years. But those are the 5 guys who had were fortunate enough to taste 4. Actually, is that 4 or 2, 3? Yeah, 5 drivers to taste victory in New England for their first career win. So 5 drivers to take a look at this year at New Hampshire. I think Kevin Harvick. I think we talked about his winless drought. His team is in a tailspin. He won last year's July race. 2 wins in the last 4 Loudon races for him. Seems to fancy the track. The winless start, as I said, is going on 21 races. Ran this a year ago, wasn't very fancy, but knows how to get around here. And I think that burning desire to get back into winner's circle is going to fuel him. And he's a driver to watch in Sunday's event. Clint Boyer also looking for that first win of the season. Deeply rooted in mediocrity right now. He's won, as he said, his first career win came in the fall of 2007 at the Magic Mile. He needs to capture some of that magic to trump the poor luck he's sustained in the last few weeks. Critical for the 14 car. I think now there's a healthy competition among the 4 Stuart Haas Racing drivers who can get to the winner's circle first. But the bottom line is get to the winner's circle and get that albatross off around your neck. Martin Truex Jr., he's gunning for his 6th win of 2019. Actually, Kyle, let's take that back. Kyle does have 5 from earlier omission there. I made a mistake, so it's 5. So in New England, he's kind of his teed on this track many years, and the East Series, sort of not, I guess it would be his second home track. I know Dover is more seen as his home track, but deep roots in New England, 3 consecutive top 5s in the last 3 Loudon races. Seems like he seems to be checking off the boxes, winning in places he hasn't won before. What better time to do this? Get yourself the 6th win. Separate yourself as the top dog at JGR, and a phenomenal season will continue for him. Denny Hamlin, another JGR driver to watch. He won 3 times at Loudon, and his most recent was 2017. Seems like he's, they said, getting lost in the shuffle. If he gets his 3rd win of 2019, it starts to put him right back in the thick of that championship conversation. And you look at Denny's resume, and we're doing a lot now with it. It's just the record books are getting thrown out the window. They're being rewritten, it seems like, on a weekly basis. Talk about Hall of Fame, missing that championship. That championship, if he can get it, the amount of wins he has, he's won some big races, Daytona twice. He's won Darlington. He's yet to win Indianapolis or the Coke 600, but has the Hall of Fame credentials, just missing that championship. And a win here would, as I said, put him back in that title fight. And another driver, Kyle Larson, if he just did really resign with Chip Ganassi Racing for 2020, this would be a nice way to put the cherry on that Sunday. He has 3 runner-up finishes at New Hampshire. Was a runner-up both in 2017. And seems to be riding a little bit of a small wave of momentum here. And I think he would be a good fit to get back in the winner's circle here. To be consecutive wins for Chip Ganassi Racing. I don't know if that's happened ever, or it's been a long time for them, if that's ever happened at all. But I think those are the 5 drivers to keep your eyes on at Loudon. You never know. Could see an upset, maybe another first-time winner, be 6 for Loudon. So that is going to wave the checkers on this edition of Greenwich. I was called the name I was going to call it. The super fantastic, above average racing spectacular, and I hope everyone is having a very good summer. It's really hot here in Ottawa, Ontario. It's hot across the eastern seaboard, U.S., Canada. Stay cool, and whatever you're doing, enjoy your summer, and hopefully you're enjoying the racing. It's been a remarkable season, not only in the Cup Series, but also in the Xfinity Series. Some great storylines in the trucks. Formula One, Lewis Hamilton has continued to rewrite the record books. Not long before he'll surpass Michael Schumacher as the all-time winner there. And Scott Dixon, very close to 50, as runner-up at Toronto. That Simon Pagenaud is quite the driver, huh? And Joseph Newgarden, good stable there for Penske in the IndyCar Series. Running Iowa on Saturday evening. So some good IndyCar action. I'm going to get down there one day to Toronto and see the Indy race. It's always kind of been on the radar. Saw quite a few races at Montreal and the Xfinity Series when they were known as the Nationwide Series down there. And, of course, Bowmanville for the trucks. So lots of racing coming up. Should be an interesting race at the Magic Mile. Pocono in a few weeks. Watkins Glen, Michigan, some good runs. Good racetracks coming up. And the final run towards the playoffs. I thank you for listening, and again, just keep in mind, in a world full of ordinary, set yourself apart and be extraordinary. Until next week, You've been listening to the Super Fantastic Above Average Racing Spectacular. It's Christopher, and I will see you.